This video will be entirely spoilers and is intended for those who have watched the movie. Unfortunately, I cannot show clips or specific pictures to accompany my essay as I normally would do because this movie is still in theaters. Also, Paramount will copyright me into oblivion. My god though, they made a fantastic movie. Apart from the beautiful world building, I have to praise the writing. I love incredible character writing. I've seen this movie 3 times now, but what struck me from the first watch was how well done the development of D-16 was. I fully disagree with any opinions that his development was mid. The writers put in a lot of effort to craft D-16, showing the warning signs and early hints of his self-centeredness and violent inclinations. They laid out the reasons for why D-16 snaps and spirals, but they also demonstrated that he was not justified to do what he does. By the end of it, D-16 becomes Megatron and is evil. Orion becomes Optimus and is good. Even if you understand where D-16 was coming from, he crossed the lines. Now, let's have fun examining D-16. After all, the depth to his character and all those little details aren't accidents. D-16 is not a bad guy at the start. He's Orion's supportive friend who tries to protect him and get him out of trouble. He's heroic, willing to risk his life to save another miner, Jazz. Although you may notice that D-16 is prone to some violent jokes. You'll hear D-16 saying a lot of things to Orion along the lines of, "I'm gonna kill you, I transform into a shovel and hit you on the head, and I'm gonna smelt your face off." I mean, it's not like most of us don't say violent things jokingly to our friends. We do, all the time. But seeing what D-16 is capable of later, maybe these jokes become genuine ideas once D-16 becomes enraged. I'm also curious about the color of D-16's eyes. His are yellow, and while watching the movie, I noticed the other miners only having green or blue eyes. If you spotted other colors, let me know. I'm always intrigued by the way Transformers writers handle the meaning of their eye colors. Blue is sometimes the sign that a bot is good, red is the sign of evil, and red does have a connection to danger in this movie. But I'll add more to this point later on. Perhaps D-16 has a meaningless or rare color. Perhaps it has true meaning. D-16 is a well-behaved member of society at the start. He is comfortable with his role as a miner, he respects authority even when they are abusive. When Darkwing punches him in the face, D-16 said he deserved it for acting out of line. That's how bad it is. And D-16 adores the planet's leader, Sentinel Prime. D-16 has no aspirations. Orion Pax does, and he drags his friend into crazy activities trying to inspire him. I mean, D-16 is the model citizen for the government. He completely trusts in Sentinel Prime, he loves Sentinel and cheers at a video of him, claiming how Sentinel is humble and present for the people. D-16 isn't stupid for this, since Sentinel does pretend to care about the miners. But D-16 is far more noticeably attached to Sentinel than Orion. When Orion tries to encourage D-16 to do something other than slave away, Orion motivates him by advertising how their actions would please Sentinel Prime. Imagine giving the Matrix to Sentinel D-16 kind of thing. "Hey, are you thinking about how pleased Sentinel will be?" Orion asks him on their quest. "Yep, how can I not?" D-16 giddily replies along those lines. D-16 idolizes. Orion does not. Orion did not seek the Matrix to please Sentinel, but he did it for everyone else's sake. D-16 didn't do it for everyone's sake. At one point near the start, Orion plays with a hypothetical of D-16. He talks about if the Matrix was found, they wouldn't have to mine anymore. They could do something else. This idea, D-16 rejects. He replies that they are miners, they mine. That's it. Since the very start, D-16 does not believe he can fix the planet, but Sentinel can. The way D-16 is encouraged to help the planet is to believe he is helping Sentinel do it. But Sentinel Prime is not D-16's only idol. D-16 loves the strongest prime, Megatronus Prime. Orion knows this and gives D-16 a sticker of his face to wear. This will be the pre-Decepticon symbol. D-16's love of Megatronus is more unique than how many citizens love Sentinel. A lot of bots cheer for Sentinel and adore him, They are brainwashed, but no one brainwashed D-16 into loving Megatronus. So it is one of the few interests D-16 has that makes him an individual, more than a slave. So Orion encourages his nerdiness to help D-16's individuality flourish. I've seen an odd take of Orion being called a toxic friend. Orion disregards D-16's wishes, that is true. Orion Pax can be rash, but Orion sees his friend without dreams who wants to do nothing but be a slave. D-16 does not see worth in himself. I don't think at all that Orion is a bad bot or friend for pushing D-16 to dream. D-16 was so close to dreaming. Maybe if they had just won that race, things would have been different. D-16 was smiling, he was happy, just imagine them in first place, the whole planet cheering for them. And if D-16 could have seen that he could inspire other miners, if only. D-16's breaking point is when Alpha Trion shows him Sentinel Prime killing Megatronus. He watches one of his idols kill another. That hits him way harder than Orion being Elita 1. But D-16 has a common response of denial when hit with bad news. D-16 then sees Sentinel bow to the Quintessons and hand over all the energon the miners worked so hard to collect. D-16 learns all of a sudden that his life was a lie. Of course, he is not alone. Orion, Elita, and B are also slaves who are exploited to pay off their evil leader's debt. Everyone is hit hard by the news, although D-16 suffers the most because he idolized Megatronus and Sentinel, while the others did not. And D-16 had accepted and loved society the way it was, unlike the others. Orion dreamt of being more than a miner, Elita dreamt of rising in the ranks, and B, well, he was just looking for friends. They didn't adore the system. D-16 put all his faith into something and then learned it was for nothing. He loses his purpose in life, and this is why he becomes fearless later on. When he stands before Sentinel, he says he is not afraid because everything had already been taken from him. For the Watchers who find D-16 switch to evil too fast, I believe it was fine. His life was shattered in an instant. Of course he's going to be enraged. We aren't going to like seeing him turn on his friends, but that is where his character flaws lie. D-16 has these issues. Self-centeredness. D-16 takes the news personally and doesn't think about how the news affects his friends. Loss of faith in all bots. Just because Sentinel betrayed him doesn't mean everyone else betrayed him, but he behaves like such. Inability to accept responsibility. D-16 blames everyone else for his pain. Let's go into these flaws that create the villain Megatron. D-16 is self-centered. You will hear him talking about how Sentinel betrayed him, not all of Cybertron. He says, Sentinel lied to my face, but not Sentinel lied to our faces. Think about it. Orion was with him when they met Sentinel, but D-16 uses I, me, and my, whereas Orion talks about we. And D-16 somehow believes others are just as self-centered as him. At one point after the news bomb, Orion says he was thinking about what we should do. D-16 snaps at him, claiming Orion is thinking only about himself. Really odd when Orion didn't say I. D-16 believes everyone is as self-centered as himself. D-16 doesn't console his friends after the news, not once, whereas Orion asks D-16 if he's okay. D-16 addresses Orion in a dangerous, firm tone. He's scaring his friends, but he does not care. And why doesn't he care? Here's the next flaw explored. The loss of faith steered D-16 into becoming more self-centered. Because D-16 trusted Sentinel with all of his spark, he mistakenly acts like he can trust no one now. I don't mean he's outwardly paranoid, but D-16 becomes cold. He takes charge of the group, taking the orb from Orion, which contains their proof of Sentinel's crimes. D-16 proclaims that he will never trust another leader again, and D-16 starts to say that the only bot he can trust is himself, but he's cut off when the High Guard attacks. D-16 stays with his friends as long as he believes they will help him punish Sentinel. When the group opposes killing Sentinel, he demands they get out of his way. "Get out of my way" becomes D-16's motto for the rest of the movie. He behaves like if a bot doesn't want to murder Sentinel, they support him. He hates Sentinel Prime so much that he cannot fathom why the others don't hate him to the same degree. D-16 may see their reluctance to kill Sentinel as them supporting his actions. It's absurd, because of course they don't. All of them were slaves who had their TCOG stolen, stripping them of their full potential. But the others believe that showing society that Sentinel is a murderous liar is enough. They have faith that the people will believe what they see and reject Sentinel Prime. D-16 questions if the people will believe what they see, and mishandles the proof, damaging it to Orion's dismay. He simply has no faith in the people. He doesn't think the proof matters, only his actions. When the group is captured by the High Guard, Orion wants to ally with them. The High Guard may have become violent nutjobs, perhaps after 50 cycles of fighting each other for fuel, but they were loyal to the Prime Sentinel killed. They also hate Sentinel, but D-16 doesn't like their methods of sabotaging Sentinel's trains. D-16 believes no one can bring justice to Sentinel but him. He marches off alone to kill Sentinel, and to his motto of "get out of my way," brutally hurts Starscream for trying to bar his exit. Orion shouts that Starscream is not the enemy. It's true, Starscream isn't. Starscream hates Sentinel too, but D-16 saw him as the enemy just for getting in his way. Once again, as though getting in his way is support for Sentinel. D-16 unlocks his huge black gun at this point and his eyes darken to orange. After he defeats Starscream, he starts getting an idea that maybe he can work with others to take down Sentinel. He mirrors something horrible, behaving like Darkwing did to him. Might makes right. Another reason for D-16 to feel so strongly about wanting to kill Sentinel is that Sentinel tortures him after this scene. Yeah, Orion, Elita, and B do not get tortured, but Sentinel absolutely fucks D-16 up. When D-16 gets captured and refuses to kneel, Sentinel beats and burns him. He also boasts that he stole the organ of D-16's idol Megatronus, putting it inside himself. It's so fucked up. D-16 cannot take this. Hatred overwhelms him. Orion, Elita, and B are able to rally the miners and the High Guard to defeat Sentinel. Orion believed in the people where D-16 didn't. Orion goes down to the miners, and God, I love this scene. This is a pure Optimus scene. He is twice the size he used to be, but he kneels down to be the same level as his fellows. In that lovely Optimus fatherly way, he puts his hands on their shoulders. Looking into their eyes and gently speaking, he explains the truth about Sentinel, and that they have the power to stop him. He uplifts them, letting them know they are valuable and capable of anything. D-16 had forgotten the miners, but Orion had always wanted to inspire them from the start. Orion, Elita, and B show the world video clips proving Sentinel is a liar. Sentinel stops fighting once he hears the truth leaked. A shocked expression takes over his face and he goes limp. When D-16 attacks him, Sentinel doesn't fight back. The movie shows us that it's over. Sentinel is defeated and there is no need to kill him. D-16 is going to kill him not because he needs to, but because he wants to. Orion tries to stop him, but gets fatally shot by D-16 while protecting Sentinel. D-16 is first horrified by his mistake, before displaying his next flaw. D-16 cannot accept responsibility, except when it is within the bounds of obeying society. D-16 really liked when things were simple and cozy, even if it were all a lie. As soon as he hears the truth from Alpha Trion, D-16 snaps at Orion with the "you just had to" speech. Like, you just had to take us to the surface. D-16 is legitimately angry for a minute that Orion disrupted his cozy life with the truth. He can't handle the truth and blames Orion for the pain he feels. Deny, deny, deny. D-16 blames Orion for many things in this film, but the craziest is he blames Orion after D-16 shoots him. D-16 doesn't lose his rage, fill up with grief, and think, "Oh no, what have I done?" He nearly does, as he holds onto Orion's hand going, "No, no, why?" Orion sees the dangerous blankness crossing D-16's face. He knows what's coming. The denial. D-16 claims he is done saving him and drops him, letting him die. D-16 has decided Orion's death is his own damn fault, so he doesn't need to feel anything. Despite everything they went through, despite their friendships, the fun times, and the presents. The bot who would have saved Jazz before is willing to let civilians die at the end of the movie. D-16 is not justified. He was deceived, hurt, and very wronged by society. That is usually Megatron's origin in Transformers media these days. He was a wronged slave striking back at society. And nowadays, Optimus's origin is in a place higher up in society that takes advantage of Megatron's suffering as a slave. TF1, putting Optimus down at Megatron's level, is the right choice. It doesn't feel right when the oppressed character fighting for their rights becomes the evil one, while the upper class are the heroic good guys. Now that Optimus and Megatron both were slaves, we can equally compare them. Although Optimus suffered, he is focused on fixing society peacefully. He is gentle and full of hope. Megatron doesn't think about the good of society, only himself, and he hurts his friends on his rampage. D-16's spiral isn't Orion's fault. D-16's character flaws were. Orion tried to care for D-16, but D-16 pushed him away, threatened him, then let him die. Orion never did anything to deserve that hatred. D-16 is a wonderfully written villain, and I enjoyed watching his spiral. Sentinel Prime was also a great villain, so surprisingly cruel. TF1 wasn't a silly kids movie when we had Sentinel murdering and torturing on screen. I loved it. You hate the love Sentinel Prime. Despite my silly video calling Sentinel hot, my favorite part of the movie was seeing D-16 kill him. It was the beautiful completion of D-16's development. He had crossed the line. I knew he was going to do it, and I greatly looked forward to seeing it. With the music, the flashing between Sentinel dragging himself fearfully toward the camera, Orion falling majestically to the core. God, that scene was so good. After all the build-up, it was cathartic. I can imagine minor gripes people may have with this movie. Something like, why must the movies always end with a cheesy speech from Optimus? Why is the High Guard being wet-noodly, easily beaten, and intimidated by regular bots when they used to be esteemed warriors? But on the whole, I cannot understand major gripes of the movie. This movie is one of the best Transformers media, in my opinion. Not only is the world incredibly imaginative and beautiful, the writers cared very much about developing their characters, and the voice actors put soul into them. I can feel the heart in this movie that I didn't feel in other movies. I saw small details that just made D-16's spiral into madness feel right. They tried hard and it paid off, and while fans of Transformers can compare the lore of this movie to Transformers Prime and the IDW comics, I think Transformers 1 improved on the general lore concept we've been seeing of a caste system and slavery. The most important change was putting Optimus at the same level as Megatron, another slave. Now when Optimus chooses good and Megatron chooses evil, Megatron's actions are clearly inexcusable when we see the better solution from Optimus. My final random thoughts of this movie are that maybe yellow-eyed bots are more prone to rage. Maybe yellow-eyed bots are meant to be warriors, as when the group got their T-Cogs and realized their full potential, Megatron got a powerful tank form. His friends didn't. Maybe he was destined to be a fighter like the High Guard. All of the High Guard had either yellow or red eyes, for the most part as I recall. And since Sentinel was evil and still had blue eyes, perhaps red is more of a rage thing than an evil thing. Sentinel was a cool and collected evil. His blue eyes as deceptive as his whole self. Or maybe he just can't change his eye color. I just wanted to speculate as well if the Vehicons at Sentinel's side were AI. They are the only Cybertronian clones. They speak robotically. So are they AI? They don't scream in pain, but funnily enough, 2 ran away when B said he was going to cut them. Was it just a survival coding? Can they feel? I don't think they can feel in this movie. By the way, epic design for the Quintessons ship. It was creepy and fleshy, like it was a living thing. I know some people are going to complain about how small a part the Quintessons played in this film, but come on, that's what the sequel is for. First the Cybertronians solve their underground problems, then they can gather the strength to take on their surface problems. I really trust this is what their plans were. And this is the bravest Starscream you've ever seen, who is a straight up masochist. I couldn't believe it. This Starscream loves pain, and was telling Megatron to hit him harder. He was goading Megatron to choke him harder. Damn Starscream. Also, I was laughing at the thought in my brain that they made Arachnid biblically accurate in this film.